Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us this morning for our Plus1 2025-26 information session. My name is Matt Morse. I am the Director of Private Investment Capability here at Creative Australia. I am a Caucasian male with spiky brown greyish hair, and I'm looking forward to spending the next hour with you to discuss our opportunity of plus one. But firstly, I would like to acknowledge the fact that I'm joining you from beautiful Wurundjeri land today here in Melbourne and pay my respects to our First Nations elders and any First Nations people joining us today for the webinar. And of course, our amazing First Nations colleagues here at Creative Australia. So if you don't know, if this is your first time hearing about us of Creative Australia is the Australian government's principal arts investment and advisory body. Um, Plus one comes from the Partnerships and Development team, which also incorporates industry development, research, and evaluation. We are kind of like the skills development and information hub of Creative Australia. Okay. I can hear that some people do have their sound on at the moment. So if we could turn that off, that would be great. So today, I don't want to take up this opportunity to read verbatim the guidelines for Plus One, but really take a two-pronged approach to this conversation. And the first part being where I will walk through some of the key factors of the program, but then hand over to my colleague Matthew Higgins, who is the State Manager of Partnerships and Development for Queensland, to have a great conversation with two of our alumni from Plus One. And that's really where I think the benefit of today's session will be hearing firsthand from David and Autumn about how they approached their Plus One fundraising and what they're doing now. So I think that's where the bulk of today's session will be great for you all. So Plus one. So Plus one is our match funding program here for organisations at Creative Australia. It's a program designed primarily for organisations that are fundraising or have been considering fundraising and are looking to take their fundraising to the next level. It provides an opportunity where we, Creative Australia, provide dollar for dollar match funding for a particular fundraising campaign that takes place throughout the year, where we will match the money raised up to a certain amount. The program is in two streams. Stream A, which is for organisations with an operating budget of under $500,000, and we will match up to $25,000. And the second stream is for organisations that have an operating budget greater than $500,000, but also under $5 million. So there is some eligibility criteria for Plus One. To participate in the program, your organisation must be a legally constituted entity with an Australian business number. As I mentioned, you must have an annual turnover of less than 5 million for the calendar year of 2024 or the financial year if your organisation operates on a financial year calendar of the 2023-24 year. Your organisation must also be based in Australia, carrying out the majority of your activity here within Australia. And of course, the primary purpose of your organisation must be providing arts and cultural organisations for Australian artists and organisations. We will not accept applications from recipients of the previous year of Plus One. So if your organisation has just recently participated in the program in 2024-2025 financial year, unfortunately, you need to take a year off plus one. We also won't accept applications from organizations that have an annual turnover of greater than $5 million um, in that calendar year of 2024 or that financial year of 2023-24. And we will not accept applications from entities whose primary purpose is to support the fundraising activities of another organization that have either received plus one funding in 2024, 2025, or have an annual turnover of $5 million in the calendar year of 2024 or the financial year of 2023, 2024. So the interesting Plus One is a very interesting program. So it has various stages to it and some level of complexity. So I'm going to talk through some of those stages right now. So as you can see on the slide at the moment, we have four stages. So we are currently in the application stage at the moment, and applications are open until the 5th of August. If you would like to apply, you need to make sure that you can access Creative Australia's grant management system Flux, and you can access that through the application page for Plus One on the Creative Australia website. From there, you will be guided through what we ask in the application, and I will talk to that briefly in a moment. And once you've submitted your application, and after the 5th of August, we go through our assessment process. And the Plus One program, we invite industry consultation to this particular program, where we ask arts fundraisers to provide us advice on those particular applications. And from there, the team here at Creative Australia, we make decisions about how our investment of match funding will be distributed across the country, across the two streams for this year. If you are fortunate enough to be successful for the program, you have between the 7th of October and the 31st of May in 2026 to undertake your Plus One fundraising campaign. And that's really mindful when you are thinking about your campaign and how you're going to conduct that, that you need to be really mindful that we only match funds raised between the 7th of October and the 31st of May 2026. And then after that, we ask you to tell us and show us how you raised that money. And we call that verification. And that is where you provide us an interim report that tells us how many supporters you achieved through your campaign and how much money you raised. One of the primary purposes of the Plus One program, and this is paramount, and I should have mentioned this from the upset, so apologies, is in Plus One, we are looking for campaigns that are either going to bring new supporters to your organization, so that may be new philanthropic supporters or business cash supporters, or it could be a campaign that's looking to increase the level of giving from people that are already supporting your organization. So an example of that could be me, Matt Morse, providing $50 per year, but you're designing a Plus One match funding campaign to see if Matt will contribute to that and go from being a $50 supporter to maybe a $100 supporter or a $500 supporter. And finally, we look to campaigns that are about building skills and knowledge around fundraising in the whole of organization through participating in the Plus One campaign. And that leads me to the next slide. And it really sums it up here. The Plus One is about fundraising campaigns that are viable and transformational. So when thinking about your application, think about the size of your organization, the resources that you have. Is the campaign that you're proposing in your application actually achievable? within that time frame of October and the end of May? Do you have enough staff? Uh, do you have, is there a lot going on in your organization during that time? Do you have enough potential new supporters? Um, what is the transformation to your organization in the longer term um, after participating in the program? And as you'll know, there's kind of a theme that I'm talking about here. Plus one, when we look at your application, we're looking at your fundraising strategy. So, your project, what you're fundraising for, of course, we love to know about that, but that is a outcome of the fundraising. But when we look at your application, we are looking at your fundraising strategy and how you will resource that and what will be the benefit to you and your organization for participating in that program. So we have three assessment criteria for this program. The first one being quality, and that is of the fundraising strategy, not the merit of the artistic quality of the project. We love to look at that, but we are looking at the fundraising strategy. The second one being viability, and that is how likely you are to reach your target. And so my advice here is if you're an organization that has been raising roughly $5,000 or $10,000 per year, um, for the last 3 years, consider whether or not applying for $25,000 because that's the ceiling is what you should do. Think about what is an achievable fundraising goal that is a little bit of a stretch because you do have the opportunity of match funding, but is achievable to your organization and the resources that you have. And finally, the third one is impact, and that is how the campaign will transform your organization and your organization's fundraising into the future. Okay, so the application. What do we ask? What are we looking for? So the first part here is a brief outline of your organization, who you are, what you do, um, what are your outputs, what are some of your achievements. The second one is the important piece. What is your fundraising campaign? The strategy, how much you're looking to raise. The third part is the key messages of support for your fundraising campaign. So this is very much thinking about, well, what messages are you telling your supporters enable for them to think about supporting your organization? So why should they support you in this particular campaign? Your organization or this actual fundraising activity, which could be for a new production, a showing, a seeding bank. As I've said, the outcome is up to you. The fourth part is the key areas of responsibility for the campaign's delivery within your organization. So who is going to run this campaign? Is it going to be just one person or is it going to be a team effort? And who within the team is going to play what role? It's great for us to understand that so that we can better see whether or not we think it's viable that you're going to be able to reach this target during the fundraising period. The fifth part is the groups and networks that you're looking. So who are you targeting? Who are these new supporters or who are your current supporters that you're looking at growing throughout your campaign? It's always good for us to know that you've been thinking about that and that's considered as part of your fundraising strategy. And then you need to tell us about how having this amazing opportunity of plus one will be leveraged within your campaign. And I will say that I've read a lot of plus one applications over my time, and this is often forgotten about in the campaign. People don't mention how they're going to use match funding to have success in their campaign. It's quite obvious, but people do forget. So that is my tip at the moment. Don't forget to mention that. And then tell us about the long-term benefits to your organization post plus one. And then tell us how you're going to steward your donors, not just within this particular plus one opportunity, but also into the future. And then the proposed campaign. So give us some detail. What are your key messages? Um, how are you going to run this fundraising campaign during October through to May in 2026? And then we like to know the little bit of detail about your project, and that is a budget. So with the if you are successful. So if we are supporting you with $25,000 worth of match funding, you raise $25,000. That means you've got $50,000 towards your project. We like to know how you're planning to spend that. Is that going to be spent on salaries? Is that going to be spent on the realization of a project and so forth? How you expend that money is up to you, but we like to know that how you're going to spend that within your application. Finally, some top tips from me. We see a lot of flashy ideas and concepts when it comes to plus one campaigns, and they're great, they're amazing. But when we peel back the layer, we are looking for a strong fundraising plan that is achievable, that has a reasonable target, and that looks to how this opportunity is going to provide a donor base or a business supporter base well beyond the plus one opportunity. Um, think about your key messaging being quite simple. Um, and finally, it's about making sure that you've got enough time in your campaign actually to do the fundraising. It may seem like from October to May is a very long, 7 months. That's easy. We can run a campaign, but that time flies. And there's often a little bit of a rush towards the end. So really think about how do you carve out your campaign during that window. So now I'm going to hand over to the interesting part. But before I do, I would like to say that one of the great things that we do have within the partnerships and development team at Creative Australia is that we do have a national network of development and partnership state managers. And you're about to meet my great colleague, Matthew Higgins, just in a moment. But also, as you consider your plus one campaign, you also have the resource of my team, Paulina and Lisa in the private investment capability team. And they're here for you to be able to email or call if you've got any questions as you're filling out your campaign. So I think that is enough for me at this point in time. So, Matt, I will hand over to you.
Thank you so much, Matt, for that detailed overview of the Plus One program. Hello, everyone. My name is Matt Higgins, and I'm joining from the lands of the Turrbal and Yagara people today here in Brisbane, Meerjin. I am a Caucasian male with mid-length beard. I've got short, back and side sandy hair, and today I'm wearing a black business shirt. I would also like to thank Jamila and Erin, who are providing Auslan interpretation for today's webinar. As Matt mentioned, we're going to shift gears a little now from the guidelines to lived experience. And in this part of the session, we'll hear directly from some of the past Plus One participants who've run successful campaigns. They've generously agreed to share their insights, reflections, and share some of the learnings that they've taken along the way. This is your chance to hear what it really takes from setting up a strategy to building momentum, working with donors, communicating a case for support, and managing your time and energy throughout a fundraising campaign. So, with that, let me introduce our guests. Today, we're firstly joined by Autumn Scewthorpe. She is the Artistic Director and CEO at Crossroad Arts in Mackay, North Queensland. Crossroad Arts is a conduit, broker and facilitator of contemporary arts practices that are inclusive, self-determined and community engaged. They've been working on this work for 25 years and are fiercely and passionately of and from regional Queensland, both as an organisation, as a community, and as artists. They strive to enact change through action in order to achieve the vision of arts for all, and will continue to lead and champion equal representation for all artists. Joining us today also is David Ralph, the General Manager of Outer Urban Projects, so from regional North Queensland to metropolitan Melbourne. Outer Urban Projects, founded in 2012, is a vital play in the Australian community arts and cultural development and performing arts sectors. They forged a dynamic intergenerational performing arts company that collaborates with emerging artists and their communities in the outer northern suburbs of Melbourne. Outer Urban Projects delivers an artistic program that is ambitious in reach, reflecting the complex face of contemporary Australia to challenge the architecture of access in the Australian arts industry. Welcome, David. Welcome, Autumn. Thank you both for joining us here this morning. Now, before we dive into the campaign strategies, I'd like to rewind a little bit and get a sense of where each of your organizations were coming from. We might start with you, David. Can you tell us about Outer Urban Project's fundraising history before Plus One and your motivation for applying?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm David. I've got curly dark brown hair. I'm wearing a grey top and I'm Caucasian. Yeah, thanks for your question. Out Urban Projects has undertaken a range of focused fundraising campaigns over the years, including an end of year financial appeals and the Giving Tuesday campaigns. Some of these were planned well in advance, while others coincided with really intense periods of activity, including like a production during the Melbourne International Arts Festival. So you can imagine that is conflicting levels of workloads within our small team. Um, and in 2014, we ran a successful match fundraising campaign with a philanthropic partner in a North Community Foundation to purchase a van for our community. And this campaign resulted in the highest number of donors in the company's history, um, largely because we were a large organization, I'd say, at the time, and our community was highly motivated to support our growth. And in 2012, we participated in Creative Australia's pilot program, the Art and Science of Philanthropy fundraising. And this program enabled us to conduct an audit and a SWOT of our donor activity over the last 10 years. And we examined donor origins, the strengths and challenges of our approaches, the tools and assets, how our team and board were involved, and the return on investment of that work. And with mentoring from experts, we had, Anne Frankenberg was our mentor, and we had guidance from Frankie Airy from Philanthropy Squared, I think it's called, yeah. And we were able to strengthen our donor communications, target larger contributions for donors, and took an overall organizational approach to fundraising. But I have to say, historically, our team has had success in securing strategic grants and partnerships. However, we hadn't prioritized prior donor engagement. And I guess one of the silver linings that came out of COVID was the opportunity to focus on that area. And we'd been tracking the Plus One program for some time. And I was observing other campaigns and contributing as a donor myself to organizations that I'm familiar with and have an alignment with, and gaining that familiarity with the Plus One model. And last year, I'd have to say we were in a really strong position to apply, because we had the capacity and the timing to give it the focus that required to make it a successful campaign and program to be a
Yeah,
part of.
beautiful. Thank you, David. It sounds like you've undertaken a really a long journey, but one that's quite rigorous and
Mm.
robust to get you to where you are today. So thanks for sharing that background. Autumn, what about yourself? Can you tell us a little bit about where Crossroad Arts was at on its fundraising journey before you undertook this Plus One campaign recently?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Autumn. I'm calling here from Yui country in Mackay. I am a fair-skinned Māori wahine with messy curly brown hair and glasses on, and can't really see it on screen, but a green velvet dress. So where was Crossroad Arts on its fundraising journey? I think, like most small to medium companies, we'd had a bit of a stab in the dark sometimes at trying to do fundraising, and it really wasn't that successful because we didn't have a dedicated staff member or resources or team. So in 2020, with the Plus1 funding that we applied for back then, we actually used the matched funding or the project fund to pay for a sponsorship and development officer. And at that time, then we were able to introduce an annual giving program that has steadily climbed over the last 5 years. We've had, I think just kind of touching on what David is sort of saying, like it is a slow burning process. And it's now embedded within our organization, including that role. So the original funding was, quite critical in helping us actually continue this and make sure that it's resourced properly. And I think, it's definitely a great program. But I saw in the Q&A, people were kind of asking if you can spend it on a role, or like we also use it for core and operational this particular round. So it doesn't have to be totally project related to something in your artistic program. And I think with how challenging funding landscapes are, there isn't a lot of core and operational funds available to arts organisations. So for us, that's kind of the strategy that we've gone with. But now that we've had the lovely Melissa in the sponsorship and development officer role, there's no way that we would not have her in that role going forward, because it really does determine the success, just having someone with that right skill set, connections within the fundraising community and the private sector, particularly regionally. I think once you have that embedded, and then you have we have like a longer term strategy around what our fundraising campaigns look like now. But that all came out of having that role.
Yeah, beautiful. And I think that's really interesting, sharing that story of the prior Plus1 and that impact that it's had. But you've really touched on what I think is one of the biggest decisions in a fundraising campaign, and that's defining exactly what you're fundraising for and how much you need. So, Autumn, we might stay with you, and if you might want to just expand on your approach to framing your cause, what your target was, and what you were raising the money for, and how that decision came about.
Yeah, for sure. So Crossroad Arts' vision is arts for all. So we made sure that that's communicated across our entire campaign in our marketing, in the way that we talk to the community, in all of our collateral. But then when we talk about, so that's the message, I guess, is that your money is being donated to support arts for all. But in terms of communicating exactly where that money would go, we put it across 3 different banners. So production, access, and support, community. With this last campaign, that just enables us to then direct where that money can go if we need to use it for a community program, or employment of a deaf or disabled artist, or to keep the doors open and pay our rent. So that's kind of how we communicated that message. But I think, just really pushing the whole way through our vision, and making sure that our artists were centered in and across the whole campaign. So we do a lot of presentations with Rotaries and private sector, also small businesses, and we're fortunate to have a foundation here in Mackay as well. So lots of presentations, but artists who are interested and keen to were invited to also tell the message. And then we also worked really closely with our local chamber. I think where I was saying before we joined here, we're in a regional setting, so arts support isn't necessarily a strong thing up here in Mackay. It's mostly sports. So we're also kind of educating people along the way what the arts can do for a community and the value. And then there's another layer on there around accessibility as well. And I think, yeah, just having those in-person moments is really important. The relationship is
Yeah,
really
beautiful. Absolutely. And I think it's a really interesting decision for an organization um, to anchor the Plus One campaign around core operational funding, because often there is um, a push towards project funding, but what we actually need is operational funding. But David, you did take a slightly different approach with framing your campaign. So do you want to tell us a little bit about what you were raising money for, what your financial target was, and how you arrived at that decision?
Yeah, our fundraising target was 55K, with 50 coming from the Plus One program. And our Urban Projects' fundraising campaign focused on launching a major works giving circle through an intimate and vibrant house party, which was hosted at our artistic director and co-CEO Irini Vala's home in the heart of the Outer North. And she's got a beautiful, lovely, welcoming home. And we created this lovely atmosphere with a reading from Visual by our associate artist Sara Davudi, and performances by Sarita Makarg and Mamit Singh. And the event was multi-pronged in the end. However, its main focus was the development of Visual, which I just slightly touched on. And Visual is a large-scale experimental and communal work, bringing together a creative team of writers, dance artists, and a community ensemble to examine the intersections of public and private safety with race, gender, and terror in the streets of Naarm, Melbourne. And this project, Visual, is a really ambitious project with an equally ambitious budget, and one that I guess many in the sector would know. When producing a large scale work relies on many funding partners as well as other partners beyond just the money. And the Plus One program provided an opportunity for us to engage both existing and new donors, and inviting them in to share in that project's vision. And when I mentioned earlier about it being multi-pronged approach, because we did pitch Visual as the main anchor for our Plus One project. But in the lead up to the house party, the board and our team had been developing over a couple of years a forward 10-year vision for the company, which we called a Becoming Iconic document, if you will. And we realized that it was a really timely way to launch this document. And it's a bold articulation of our theory of change. I've got it right here, if you can see it. I'm just sharing it here
Beautiful.
with some glare. But it's a bold articulation of our theory of change of the company's future. And we had, many of our guests speak to us at the party about the Visual project, with others also expressing their excitement of reading and going through that Becoming Iconic document. And having all of this in the house party provided that kind of friendly and exciting discussion about the company overall. Yeah.
Yeah, David, I want to unpack that a little bit further and I sort of move into the theme of strategy because I think that's where we're sort of heading now. Because it's very interesting when reflecting on both of your approaches. We've got a bit of a divergence there, one being anchored around whole of organization, one being anchored around a specific project. So there's many ways that you can sort of anchor a campaign. But when it comes to strategy, you mentioned yours was multi-pronged and this party. And so I'm getting a sense that this is targeting individuals. Do you want to sort of step us through your campaign strategy? Because I know that there's like many approaches, individual donors, trust and foundations, business partnerships. How did you choose the approaches that you were going to utilize in the campaign and how did that roll out for you?
Yeah, I guess the multi-pronged approach in the end saw us apply a mixed past of successful strategies and new ones, which is including that intimate house party. And in the lead up to the party, we rolled out a broader donor campaign, which is what we've done. It's our end of year financial campaign, which we did that, and that aligned, with those previous past owners and friends of the organisation. So that was kind of rolling out through EDMs, social media channels, targeting existing past owners. And also applying a targeted and personalized messaging to those I guess, those donors and those advocates. And we kind of tapped on the shoulder of known donors that have kind of been with us for a number of years, and inviting them to bring their networks into this giving circle. And so we would kind of give them collateral or a personalized email or even a phone call, and then follow it up with some text messages, because we know them well enough that we could start to build those relationships and start to ask those questions. Hey, do you know somebody else that you think would really love this project and would want to jump on board? One thing, I mean, we pitched for Plus1 for 50,000, and we reached well above our target, which was really, really great. And one of the things that we did along a number of strategies was really look at our annual grants and fundraising schedule, because as Matt mentioned earlier, the 7th of October, the campaign needs to run from the 7th of October to the 31st of May. So you've still got a month after the 31st of May, which is the end of the financial year, which makes it a little tricky. But in doing that, we looked at our funding schedule, which we do constantly, and looked at all the partnerships, be it new or existing, and sought out if they could align in with this campaign. So speaking to them and speaking to those higher donors of going, hey, would you consider bringing your donation that you might make in June into May, or and looking at those philanthropic or the trust that we were going to approach, and seeing if that alignment would happen within that. So that kind of really boosted us and gave us the confidence that we were going to reach that target. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And what about yourself, Autumn, at Crossroad Arts? What sort of strategies did you employ through this campaign?
Well, first, I just want to say I really love the idea of a house party, an intimate giving circle as a house party. That sounds so lush. I think I can echo quite a few things that sort of David is saying. I think obviously it's really important to have beautiful collateral that communicates your message with stunning images of your previous works. Just to communicate the value of where that money is going. And then it is a really dedicated kind of activity for the whole company. Most of us are sitting down, stuffing envelopes, signing personal cards or letters for existing donors, and making sure that we also talk about, what was achieved in the previous annual giving program campaign. So it's a thank you, but it's also an ask at the same time for existing supporters. And then I think in our community, I think it's really important to use the Plus1, leverage the opportunity. People are really motivated when you say double your dollar, or we noticed in our community, people were calling us up and being like, hey, have you reached the target yet? We really need to make sure that you guys can get that doubled amount of money. And then sort of towards the end of the campaign, we sent out an EDM or like an e-blast saying, here's an update. We've got about $1,500 to go. And then all of these small businesses just started donating the remaining amount. So we, in one day, kind of raised a significant amount of money over the target, which was really wonderful to see that support. But I think touching on that hype around doubling your dollar, and people really liked that. We also introduced a giving day for the first time, and we launched that with our local Chamber of Commerce. So it was, I know that there's one coming up on the 23rd of October, the National Arts Giving Day, which would align with this particular +1. And I think it's really important for companies to leverage that. So our local Chamber of Commerce hosts like these morning coffees every fortnight, and we hosted it at our office here, and we kind of converted the space into a mini performance. Again, it's really nuanced and related to our community up here in Mackay, but when people go to Chamber, they don't normally have a synchronized swimming performance at 7 a.m. in the morning, with the backdrop of an exhibition by our local artists. So it was a point of difference for them, but it also meant that the business community knew when they were coming to Crossroad Arts that day to bring a pledge of support. And I know just little things that I think might be obvious, but for us, we did spend some money on a giant check this year. And I tell you what, like when you tell people they can come down and get a photo with your artist, with the giant check, it really motivates. It really motivates people. So people want to be seen to be supporting. And yeah, like real estate agents. That for us, that's the pool for us. We don't have major trusts, or we do have one foundation that did come through. Sort of what David was saying too. Strategically, if you can ask, and it's if you can ask for it to fall within the deadline of the fund, the match funding, I think we had to do a bit of communication around that as well. And I know someone was saying, oh, the 30th of June, that last push is normally where a lot of money comes through. I don't know if this is just a regional thing for us, but we actually thought it was a better timing for us that our campaign concluded in May, because everybody's asking then June. So we were able to kind of get in front of that, I think.
Yeah.
And we're a smaller community, so we have to just be mindful of not asking people too much and becoming annoying. I think for us, the timing actually was a bit more strategic for,
I'd echo that as well. Awesome. Like it was really great to go, let's just move it outside of that really noisy period. But I have to say one challenge, not challenge, and one lesson, which was really great to learn, is that people, even though the deadline is the 31st, people think it's the 30th of June. So reinforcing that message, and that's why the text messages, those really personalized text messages, hey, just heads up, some people may think it's this. And so it was really interesting because then people would be like, oh, okay, cool. However, some donations still came in over after the 31st, but we still kind of communicated to them that we hit the target, but your donation is still going to contribute and do this and do that, and thanks heaps. And
Yeah, terrific. I want to stay there with you, David, just on messaging and the text messaging, maybe a little bit broader, but I'd really like to just dive in now, just in terms of the key messaging and the case for support. What sort of messages did you utilize in your campaign, and what sort of resonated? We know that, reinforcing the deadline, reinforcing the doubling of the donation or doubling of the impact, but what other sort of messaging worked for you in your campaign?
Yeah, so like multiple messages through multiple channels. And that when you think of the broader campaign, so it's like we're going social media, and we're boosting that. We're putting some money behind some ads for that. So that is really, the message for that is your donation is going to be matched, like double, double, double. And then while for the house party, we invited over 120 guests, I think, but we only had capacity for 50. So we had to kind of manage that. But those invitations really spoke to the intimate nature of the event, to launch our forward vision and asking guests to consider contributing to the visual project. So We didn't want to overload them with too much information, but we just had to keep it short, sharp, and bring them into coming in on that forward vision. Our
Mm.
community is really behind us, particularly the people that are working in our community, that are also leaders in our community. And but also one of the strong messages that happened within in the house party is that we had really short, sharp speeches by our co-chair, Talia Azaria, our EP Kate Gillick, and Irini Valla, our AD, spoke to the forward vision and to the the visual project really articulately and in a really friendly way, and with the ask to consider the creative impact the project would have on our artists and our community. And so, you know, one great thing we invested in, it's like when Autumn said, like, we made it like investing in, we didn't invest in a check. One day maybe we will, but we invested in some really high quality tote bags. They were black and they had a message that is on our forward vision, which is art, protest, resistance. And, you know, that was a pretty big investment, but inside those tote bags, which were the giveaway bags at the house party, was not only the Becoming Iconic document, we also had a publication of a play called The Audition, which toured in 2024, which a lot of our guests had came and seen the show. And we put in there an envelope with a handwritten thank you on the front. And in the letter was co-signed by the co-CEOs with a call to donate to Visual. So it was like this kind of personalized, oh, I've got a thank you letter, an opening up, and then, and this is the multi-pronged approach. Not only did we go, let's talk about Visual in there and you can donate here, we had a QR code, so it was really easy because it's a hard copy. But we also had at the very end, like, consider our bequest program, which we're still developing. So we had, you know, that's kind of that many prongs going in on that. But there was a moment where I thought there's a lot we're packing in this bag. You know, there's the audition, there's the letter, there's the call to action. But as I think it paid off, because as guests moved throughout the event, all those messages, and they're very significant messages, you know, a big document, you know, the show that we're asking them to invest in or contribute to, all of those messages, including the bequest program, even that, the audition script, the Becoming Iconic book, and the visual project, and the reading by Sarah were all discussed throughout the event and even afterwards. So we knew that those messages were coming home, but also it's the follow-up messages as well. So after the event, we did personalized emails rather than an EDM, through MailChimp or what have you, because we had, just under 60 guests. We sent everybody a thank you, and as the donations came in, we then sent them a follow-up donation, which then we're encouraging. I was sending those emails out. Then Kate and Irene would then, chime into that email and say a personalized message. It's whoever is connected to that donor would then write that personalized message, and it's thanks for coming. Let's catch up on the weekend like we did, or whatever your connection is with that individual. It's really important to kind of break away from that standard email that we know we're all going to be sending out.
That personalized communication. And I love the distillation of the key messaging and putting that on the tote bag, but then also unpacking that in that document, and just sort of the scaffolding that goes with that, but the concision that you've utilized as well. That's terrific. And also sharing the way that those sort of messages were conveyed. So thank you for that. Autumn, what about yourself? What sort of messaging were you utilizing? What resonated for your stakeholders?
Yeah, I think similar to David, obviously, really just pushing through all of the communications, our vision, but then, super focusing on the W dollar. Every dollar raised between this period will be matched by Creative Partnerships Australia. So that was across like all of our marketing strategy. I think that's like a good point too, is we're fortunate to have a marketing officer and also our sponsorship and development officer, and those two roles worked really closely together. So even just before the creative partnerships application, there already was like a 12-month plan of how we were going to launch our annual giving program. The whole team, including our artists, join in a meeting quite regularly with our sponsorship and development officer in just to discuss or brainstorm different ideas on how we can celebrate ourselves and our community with potential donors, because in our campaigns we usually have one major fundraiser as well. We have a community fundraiser called Loose Ends, which is in celebration of International Day for People with Disability. We launched the Giving Day, and then we have the marketing campaign going throughout over that period. We just like a funny thing that we did was at Loose Ends, we decided to host like a fake telethon. So there were these milestones that had to be reached. So I think we started at $500 increments. So if we could quickly raise in 3 minutes, $500, literally like people running through the crowd with buckets and square readers and stuff, then there would be these certain milestones that staff or people of significance in the community would have to do. And we also brought in our sponsors into that. And that was like still to this day, they talk about how we made them hula hoop continuously for 5 minutes on stage and didn't tell them. And, but because otherwise our relationship is very corporate and very transactional. So it was nice also to take them along the humor of us and our community, include them, and they're like, oh, what are we doing this year? So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Well, that was a risk. Weren't sure if some of them might be like, oh, what? No. Other things that happen though too, just through the chamber connection, and again, this might be more specific to the regional focus, but
Yeah,
if
I'm
you
quite
are
curious about the regional and the role of place. So I'd love to hear. Yeah.
if you are in a regional setting, I think, we all kind of know that it's a smaller community. We're likely to run into each other at different settings and places. Or in Mackay particularly, we're very collaborative, even if we're not from the same sectors, because, we really want to make sure that our town is a beautiful place to live, which is awesome. Our chamber is really active and they're really supportive, which was great. So through just literally attending those coffees in the morning, and artists that were interested in coming along too, like we were kind of a horde of crossroad arts people, that's how we are in general. But through that, we were given like free radio time, and we were also given some free spots on some digital billboards around Mackay, and we would never be able to afford those types of, marketing assets. So that was all donated. And I think if it had been for a major fundraiser or if it had been for part of our artistic program, we would not have been given that. It literally was for the Giving Day. It was through the connections that Chamber was going to open the Giving Day in the morning. And just for context, like that raised around $7,500. And in terms of labor, it really was just having the office open. We were exhausted, but it was having the office open from 8 till 8. Having, different, very small, low labor events happening throughout the day, maybe some live paintings, some musicians. But that compared to then like creating a major fundraiser and the labor and the expense and things like that was really interesting for us. The regional context too with our major fundraisers, yes, we would love to raise some money. But for us, that's actually more about relationships and creating connections with people that will then transfer to audience development or to sponsorship of our programs going forward. Because that's actually how that particular group of the private sector are going to have a relationship with us. It's probably not going to be just coming to one of our shows until we have the fancy dinner. So that's sort of, I think, maybe nuanced more to the regions. We don't have an already established arts supporter base. We are developing it as we go. Yeah, so that probably, I think, about covers our communication, I think, unless there were any other questions.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you. You mentioned the labor concept, and I'm quite curious about the time and the energy and the resources that are required to do this work, because fundraising is work. David, we might hear from you. How did that roll out for your team, and who was involved, and how did that affect your rhythm and your time and energy as a company?
Yeah, I guess there's people and then there's tools and the resources, those tools that we all use. I think we kept things fairly simple. We built on what we'd had worked on in the past. I love a graph. So we kept our Excel spreadsheet that just shows all of our donors since 2013 and their contributions over the years. So we were able to just keep building on that, as well as our databases and our assets and build on all of those tools. We had a fairly elongated timeline for our campaign.
Hmm.
We started pretty much once we heard of that. I guess when we did our application, we kind of aligned the find out date to that's when the timeline and planning, speaking to donors, speaking to our partners, having those conversations early on, and then uh, and that involved the whole team and the board. We set out a work plan that came from our fundraising strategy. We involved past supporters, including our arts patron Christos Chalkis, and past advocates of the company, along with our board, which were great in bringing along a person or two. That was a good strategic fit to the campaign. But I've just I've worked on large scale fundraising events in the past, including Perth's iconic Style Aid, which I think has finished up. So I've seen firsthand the effort it takes to roll out a fundraising event that includes catering, performances, in my mind I go, it's expensive, it's time consuming, the return on investment is really high risk. However, our house party event was small and contained, and while there were many moving elements. Um, Simone in our marketing team, Simone's focused on all of those communications with the guests in
Hmm.
the lead up, and I oversaw parts of that along with Kate, our EP. But at the party in itself, Simone was, doing communications, greeting people, doing that kind of public relations aspects of the house party. Kate, Irene, myself, and along with the board, focused on having deeper conversations with the guests in the room, along with the advocates that we'd appointed. Um, I oversaw the event management of the event. We had some event staff that came in, we onboarded to roll
Hmm.
out, tidy up, and keeping things moving along, so we could focus on the bigger picture. But even a small intimate house party does take time and it does take care to get it right. And so, um, look, one thing I learned from that pilot program we did with Frank Airy and the mentoring with Anne Frankenberg was it's not top down or bottom up, but it is a whole. It would be
Mm.
really great to have everybody in the organisation, including your board, to have a role in fundraising.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
yeah.
And look, I know I'm conscious that we are a little bit over time, but we did start a little bit late with some of the technical difficulties. So I would like to open up to the floor now for questions. So if you do have questions, please pop it into that Q&A function. We can see the questions, and I'll draw out for some of them. So I'll give everyone a chance to pop some questions into the chat. But I do want to stay on this whole of organisation. It takes a team to fundraise, and maybe Autumn, whilst people are popping their questions into the chat, we might hear from you just in terms of the role of the board. Because you've mentioned the staff engagement, and David sort of touched on it. Really does take that whole of organisation approach. But specifically for Crossroads, can you sort of give us an indication about the board involvement and how you engage them through this campaign?
Yeah, so I think Creative Partnerships Australia has a lot of other resources that you have access to during your campaign. So Matthew and I met, I think it was at the beginning of the year, or we spoke at the end of the 2024 and booked in some time. And so they also offer like free mentoring for the board and training around just, the trends of fundraising at the moment. Also just giving some clarity and some resources to the board around what different stages of the campaign mean, and also how the board can be involved. And we had a couple of new members joining well, they had been on the board maybe just for a year. And it was really great, actually, for all of us just to have a shared language around,
Mm.
what's happening. So going forward, if I send an email out or we have our list of events of what's coming up, and I say to the board, yeah, it'd be really great if you can view this as a cultivation event. They know that that means, oh, we're not directly asking anybody in the room today. We're just building relationships. And I think that shared language, whatever it is for your organization, is really important, because obviously our boards are very busy. Most of them are volunteers. And sometimes they just need you actually to tell them what you need them to do. And that gives a little bit more, I think, confidence, and like for the board to then go out and say, we're doing this. This is what we're trying to raise. This is what it's going to. Just those really basic,
Mm.
simple things that I think when you're on the ground running, we know it so well. But yeah, just giving those simple key messaging points to the board as well was really critical. And then having the board attend things, again, it might just sound super obvious, but having your board present, yeah, at your events or whenever you're public facing, if you can, I think just adds a different dimension, particularly when you're talking to the private sector. Again, just from our Mackay context, yeah, I think it validates as well the
Mhm.
company and the program and the investment when there is, yeah, a board member there. So that's sort of, and the board was, I think, because we had clear roles and responsibilities and expectations during the campaign, I think we all felt, I think, yeah, all on the same page. And I think that the board were a lot more involved in the campaign than usually. They have like definitely been supportive in the past, but it just made things a lot clearer. And yeah, so I think if you can, and can people do that, Matt, even if they are not a +1 recipient, the training
Yeah,
that you offer?
the board workshops, yes. Oh, this is a plug, but yes, no, the state managers, we offer the coaching and advice service. So that's a one-on-one, but that board capability workshop is available for all arts and cultural organisations across the country. And I think, a campaign like this is a really strategic moment to ensure that there's just alignment and, as you said, that shared language. Hey, now look, we've got two questions that I'd like to shout out from the chat, and conscious that we're running over time, so we will need to hand back to Matt Morse in a second. But people are quite interested in and it sort of links to return on investment, but just what the budget was for your campaigns, if anyone would be willing to share that. And then one specifically for you, Autumn, for the regional context, people loving that connection with Chamber of Commerce. Um, do you have relationships with the local members of parliament and local government in a similar way? So I'm not sure. Autumn, did you want to address that one, and then perhaps both of you or either of you
Yeah,
the budget one?
yeah, I can touch on that. And yeah, so we do have obviously relationships with our local, state, and federal members in the region. I think, and I think just being really mindful though, particularly in the trickiness of the world, Crossroads doesn't align itself with a particular party. I'm sure most organizations are neutral as well. So it's just, I think, particularly because we work with deaf and disabled artists and want to be really clear around the way that our artists are represented or the way that we are positioned. We have a very neutral kind of approach to that.
Mhm.
And but definitely, obviously, we're state and federally funded, so we want to have positive relationships regardless of the party. And those members do become champions and advocates for Crossroad Arts.
Yeah, terrific.
Yeah, those relationships are critical, obviously, but.
I love that idea of the champion as well, the local ambassadors. Would anyone, David or Autumn, like to speak to the investment that you made in terms of the budget? David, you've got tote bags, so how did you?
Yeah, look, a house party, you've got to get it right, don't you? So,
Mm,
we did invest in some staff, additional staff to do that, some catering, refreshments across that sense. The tote bags were a significant investment. They were around $800. I think we got 60 made. But the return on investment, I think, is there. I would have to say a notable shift from our campaign in terms of values. Our 29 in 2019, our average individual donation was around 250, and in this from this campaign, that average has now risen to 1,600.
wow.
And that reflects a stronger donor confidence, I think,
Yeah.
and clearer messaging through that of what was all offered on the night, I guess, and
Yeah.
the communications leading up to.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, thank you. That's a fantastic result. I know that Matt Morse is now on screen, so that's my sign and cue that this part of the session is over. But I would like to just thank you very much, sincerely, for your openness, your generosity, and your insights. I know that everyone here on the conversation has derived such value from that. So I'd very warmly like to thank both Autumn and David for joining us and for their generous sharing today. Thank you. Well, that wraps up that component, and over to you, Matt Morse. Thank you.
But while I share my screen, maybe do you have a tip for a great plus one campaign? We've heard from Autumn and we've heard from David. What about yourself?
Oh, is this for me?
Yeah.
Oh, for me, I think it is really about ensuring that you've got the right strategy and one that reflects your capacity as an organization, ensuring that you're not overstretching. And, I think well-being is a really important thing. So being smart and strategic about your approaches. I think, we've heard from David and from Autumn about sort of leveraging approaching it with the retaining existing donors and sort of generating uplifts from existing donors, but also piloting some new initiatives as well. I think the best opportunity for Plus One is really to embed fundraising into your culture and to your communications. And so I think that opportunity to double your impact is a real momentum, provides real momentum to sort of look internally and look at the board and your systems and your processes, but to really refine your messaging and your cause areas and embed that into your community. I think that legacy is one that sort of builds donor bases, builds a culture of fundraising. So if you can demonstrate that, they're the fundraising campaigns that really have great success, and we've heard about those today. Yeah, thank you, Matt.
Thank you. And I think it's a great opportunity for organizations to think about what is fundraising for their organization and thinking about what the uniqueness, what is their unique value proposition that they can
Mm,
put forward when it comes to fundraising. And I think, both Autumn and David, gave us two very, different kind of ways of looking at fundraising and how they approached it. But the similarities about what made success and not the fundraising just relying on one person or there was multiple people, and the legacy of that. Um, we can see that in both Crossroads and Outer Urban projects. So yeah, I would like to say thank you to all three of you for doing the interesting part of today's workshop. Um, I did have a final slide that I'd like to show, but I am having trouble sharing that. But what I will do is I will say what was going to be on that slide. And firstly is that Autumn mentioned and Matt picked up as well is that we do have the coaching and advice service by the Development and Partnership State Managers. And you can find them through the Creative Australia website, through the Partnerships and Philanthropy drop down there. And you can contact them at any stage. Doesn't need to be in regards to your +1 campaign. It could be about a fundraising idea or anything to do with your fundraising programs. Um, if you would like to talk about your +1 campaign further, about the eligibility, or if you've got any further questions, please don't hesitate to contact the private investment capability team. And the best way to do that is via email, and I will spell it out. It's CPA.programs, PROGRAMS at creative, CREATIVE .gov.au. So CPA.programs. It's in the chat now. Thank you, Paulina. And you can contact us. Other opportunities that we've got coming up. So not only do we have our match funding programs and the support coaching and advice with the state managers, but we do have two knowledge series coming up in August and September. The first one is with Cal Haney, and this, if you are thinking about running a Giving Day campaign in October, Cal Haney from the US is about phone asking. It's about picking up the phone. One of the key things that I think in this new digital world is we've got a lot of people that are scared to pick up the telephone and say hello and have a conversation with people. And I think that's a key skill that we need to re-engage with. So if you've got people in your team that are shy about having conversations on the telephone and making an ask maybe on the telephone, please register for that opportunity. And then on the 11th of September, we've got Lisa Sargent from the US, who is presenting to us on thanking. You know, we quite often forget to thank people for their support. And so these will be two great knowledge series. And if you haven't already registered, we do have the Giving Day for the Arts taking place on the 23rd of October this year. And we've got a range of resources. And we'd love for everybody to participate on the Creative Australia website. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And I hope that today has been a fruitful opportunity, and I look forward to seeing everybody's +1 campaigns. Have a great day.